Good morning, everyone. I guess the first thing really to say is congratulations. We made it through the first week, and we're all here. We're all intact. And, we're in actually the studio today. We're in Lee's building studio. So if I look like I'm in the void, there's some early. So as we work through production, it kind of in this new space. But I really want to issue a very sincere thank you for its first week, and that's everybody from our faculty to our staff to our students. It seems like everybody has stepped up to make this a safe environment to learn and work and study. Today we are going to be covering topic, major topics. One, we'll be talking about our enrollment and where our students are coming from and how this might look a little different in years past. Next, we'll give an update on our budget and the budget process. And then, of course, our favorite, COVID. We'll have a COVID update a little bit later. But I start with some terrific news in that we've had a lot of incredible efforts on our staff side to reach out to new students and existing students for what looks like a very productive fall. So let me turn it over to Terry and to Melanie to have Terry maybe go first in terms of where we are currently after the first week on our enrollment, and then have Melanie just a little bit about the student demographics and some kind of interesting characteristics of this particular class. So welcome, Terry. Terry, thanks for being on this morning.
Am I sitting here on mute as I'm like chatting?
Okay,
Oh my goodness.
now
You would think that we would be. Am I good now? Oh my goodness. You would think I would be.
Let's start now.
Old hat at this, right? All right. I love to share good news. And so that is what I'm going to do today. But before I do, I just have to shout out to my great team in enrollment. This is from admissions, advising, financial aid registrar, and all of those that have put blood, sweat, and tears into this effort. As of this morning, our head count is up 8%, and that does not include concurrent enrollment for what I look at, but this is our new freshmen, our continuing students, transfers, etc. We are 285 students ahead of where we were this time last year, which is phenomenal considering the fact that we have been recruiting students within a pandemic and haven't been able to utilize many of our traditional tactics that we have in the past. So I'm really thrilled with that. Our freshmen are up. Our continuing students are down a little bit, but we've been able to make up that with some of our short-term training initiatives and bringing students in that way. So overall, 8%. I did not think that we would be sitting at that percentage today. So, yay, thanks to the team.
That is really a monumental effort, and as we've looked at other sort of comparatives around the still too early, right? We still have weeks, so whether these numbers can hold or not is still to determine, but it's a very, very encouraging and really just that effort. But Melanie, you want to talk a little bit about our, where students are coming from and some of the interesting demographics they represent?
Yes, I do. And I also want to point out that at one point in the summer, we were 17% down. So it's even more remarkable to me that we're up 8% at this point. We just announced an inclusion initiative, and we're focused on educational achievement gaps. I'm kind of echoing. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay, I'll just keep talking over the echo then. So I believe it's important that we know where our students are from and what kind of a class we have this semester. We're always a little ahead with female students. We have 55% female, 45% male this semester. 18% of our student body is minority. That's up from last year. And at one point I heard we were significantly down in that area. So we made great strides there. I'm really happy about that number. We're also up in our 6 county area. We're up to 44% of our student body is from our 6 county area, which shows that we've been focusing on those students, and a lot of those are coming from concurrent enrollment. 21% of our students have been awarded the Pell. We suspect that more are eligible than have been awarded, but at least 21% have been awarded. I think that this number might be surprising to some. 10% of our student population is non-traditional, and 36% of our class this fall is first generation, and the bulk of those students are female students. So that gives us an idea if we're going to be focusing on inclusion and helping each student succeed, where we might have some traditional gaps and things that we can do right from the outset to help close some of these gaps. So I think we have a really interesting, we're moving towards a more diverse class, and that's because we made some targeted efforts towards recruitment. So things I think are looking really exciting for us.
Melanie, do you have a sense of whether that first generation number, whether that's kind of, it's high, but is it a record number? I mean, are we trending, because this truly is a population that we need to reach back. How are you feeling about that number? Is that hovered around 30% or so, or what can you tell us?
Right. Becky told me this morning that we're up a little bit in that first generation. So again, we've seen increases in each of the areas. That probably reflects growth in every area. But yeah, we're ahead in first generation, which is exciting. So
yeah, that really is exciting. And you know, we have our Northwest Station visit coming up in October, and one of the things, of course, they're going to be looking at how Snow College doing in, as you mentioned, closing education gaps and these student success gaps, not just in an aggregate overall number, but how are we helping these students that are in categories? You know, how are we closing those gaps with students that might be minorities? How are we doing with women and other kinds of, other kinds of differentiators? So I think that that we can reach out and then have that kind of Snow College intentional care. We're going to make a lot of progress, I think, with the students at the most.
Agreed, President. We have the deans working on strategic plans for inclusion for each of their divisions. We have a faculty fellow who's devoted entirely to inclusive pedagogy and training. He'll be working with our faculty this fall. So we've got a lot of things on, a lot of supports to help us do a little bit better with these gap students.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Well, we also wanted to continue to update the campus relative to the budget as COVID has hit and hit our institution. I do want to continue to say very happy we're in Utah, and I'm very happy we're actually at Snow College, because I think we're going to be able to weather in so many better ways than others. And I don't know whether you've been following this across the country, but some of these higher budgets have been hit in as high as 25% of their budgets are being cut, and we were asked to cut percent, which is really a real incredible thing. And you may have seen also statistics, or sorry, the polls are out that Utah actually has the strongest economy in the country as it's come out of this. So I think we can thank our lucky stars that we are in Utah. But maybe Carson, you can maybe share with the campus of where we are now that we know more about what it is and where legislature has come down, and then some of our most recent work on identifying where those cuts would come from.
Yeah, sure, President. Thank you. There has been a lot of work, and I think most people are aware of where the state has been and what they're supposed to do. There's actually a few slides that I'd like to show to kind of walk everybody through what the situation was and where we're at and what we're doing. So as you've heard from the very beginning, we talked about these guiding principles, really to preserve our mission, to protect our people, and promote those revenue generating activities. And so as we approach the cuts, both from the state and then also looking internally at our budget, these are the principles that we really went off of. So on the next slide there, you can see what happened with the fiscal situation in the state. The revenue shortfall, a lot of this was due to COVID, was down about $850 million across the board. The Executive Appropriations Committee said, for higher education, we need to cut about 2.5%, which for Snow College there on the bottom, that 2.5% was about $740,000. So we had that cut on top of anything else, on top of our own budget challenges. So right off the bat, we had to come up with $740,000. And on the next slide here, you can see what these other budget challenges were. So we had the $740,000 from the legislature. We had a structural imbalance of about $1 million, and that is mainly due to that 3-year enrollment declines for the tuition revenue that was coming in. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then we had about $500,000 in mandated costs. These are things like contracts, software contracts, utility increases, any of these things that added to it. So really, when we looked at what the Snow College budget situation was like, it's not just the $740,000, it's really about $2.25 million. So we had a lot of work to do, and my hat's off to everybody as we made the call and explained our plan of what we were going to do. Everybody has responded very positively, and so I'll talk a little bit more about that. But if we go to the next slide, I'll first talk about kind of what we were able to do, the toolkit that we had available for us. We looked at organizational restructuring and consolidations. These were existing positions or vacant positions that we could restructure. Again, going back to that first principle or the second principle of protecting our people, this was an important one to do. So what could we do with existing staff here without having to lay people off? We looked at freezing those unfilled positions and using budget rollovers. I think everybody has heard the call and has responded with budget rollovers. We looked at current expense reductions. And so again, we came back and we said, everybody, we need you to look at least a 5% current expense reduction. And I'm happy to report that about 86% of the budgets that have been sent out have already been returned to us. And everybody has included some sort of a budget cut. Many of those even went above the 5%. So thank you for all of that, all of your work. What that's resulted in is about $343,000 currently in ongoing budget reductions that we're going to use to fill that hole that we've got. So if we go to the next slide there, I want to talk about the budget cuts that have already been done, that have already been taken. So it's in slide 7 there, or slide 5 is what we've already done. And so we first started looking at that 740,000 and looking at how we could make up that 740,000 based on the those three guiding principles. And so we actually we reorganized and restructured some of the executive level, some administration. That was about $340,000 that we did on that. Again, those were existing positions. We restructured vice presidents and closed some open positions there. We spread some of the workload around. We also looked at a couple of open staff positions and open faculty positions. So through that, and there was about $10,000 in current expense savings that people had that said you can apply this to that 2.5% cut. Through those efforts, we were able to meet that 2.5% cut. But then when we started talking about the structural imbalance, there were some other things that came up. And as I mentioned, that was from enrollment declines. The past few years, about 3 years prior to this one, our budget for that tuition revenue was increasing each year. So the first year it increased about 0.8%, the next year it was about 2.8%. And so we had our budgets increasing. At the same time, enrollment was decreasing. And so as we saw that enrollment decrease over time, what we had was a gap that was growing between our budget and what our enrollment revenue was. And so when we got to FY21, we're now in a situation where our budget was far exceeding our enrollment revenues. And so we needed to make a change. And so that was when we came back and said, in addition to that 2.5% cut, we need everybody to look at your current expense budgets, and we need to cut that by about 5%. Now, as Terry mentioned, we saw enrollments increase a little bit. We're looking at about an 8% increase, which is great, because as we needed to balance that line, and we actually need to backfill that shaded portion of that graph. And so in addition to all of that, we saw about a 7.5% cut on that tuition revenue, those budgets. But then that blue line, what we anticipate, that dotted blue line, is our anticipated revenue then, or our anticipated growth in enrollment. And so by doing that, we're able to then balance where we are. And so as I mentioned before, this is going to be a multi-year effort. We're not going to be able to fill that whole shaded portion and that backfill in 1 year, but we're going to take that 343,000 of ongoing funds. We're going to supplement that with some ongoing or some one-time revenue. Those are the rollover savings. And then over a couple of years, we're going to be able to backfill that and come out of that. So I'm happy to say that while we did have a small cut, everybody had that cut in their ongoing current expense budget. I'm grateful for everybody who responded because we're seeing that trend reverse, and we're going to get our budgets in a better position ongoing. The next step is making sure that we maintain, we stay within our budgets that we're given. So with that smaller revenue. So President, that's kind of where we're at. Everything everybody has responded well. Like I said, we've got about 86% of the budgets that have been returned with those cuts incorporated, and that's allowing us to right size that budget and get us in a better position where then the growth money that we see, and the growth that we see from both the regions, the funding that we get from there and from the state, and then also from increased revenue from students coming onto campus and our online efforts and all of those things, that will really help us grow, and we'll be able to apply those revenues to the issues that we have at hand and to continued growth. So, President, if you have any questions on that, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Well, we can welcome questions from the listeners on that. But there are good news too, some other indicators that we keep our eye on. For example, you want to talk a little bit about our housing situation in terms of how we are, and that's often an indirect indicator of financial health. Talk about that, and then there's some other sources that have come to us will also that really make this a better situation than it would have.
Yeah, so we are really looking good on housing, and I didn't want to steal Rob's thunder on housing, but the efforts on the auxiliaries and those who are doing housing, student housing, have really been recognized. In fact, this past year, for this semester, our on-campus housing across the board, across campus, is 94% at capacity, which is the highest that it's been over the past 5 years. In fact, last year we were looking at about a 78% capacity. And so to grow that from 78 to 94 is a huge jump, which not only allows us a bigger cushion to make sure that we pay for those bonds that are outstanding that we used in order to build the student housing. It's really dependent on making sure that those beds are filled. And so by being able to grow that from a 78% occupancy rate to a 94 occupancy rate is huge. That really does provide us a lot of cushion and a lot of funding. And so that's a good indicator of where are we sitting at. And again, to echo what Terry mentioned earlier, to go from a 78% to a 94% housing occupancy rate in the middle of a pandemic speaks volumes to the hard work of everybody across campus in order to make that work. And so just things are really looking good, especially given the current circumstances that we're in. I don't think that we could ask for anything better right now.
You know, there's some other good news. We had $4 million were allocated to Snow College through the CARES Act. 1.1 million was going, to students and to their needs affected by COVID. But another 1.2 would be coming to us to be able to cover some of the expenses related to COVID planning. As you know, you may be following this, that there's also another stimulus bill that is being debated. And if that is approved, another sort of tranche of resources that would also come to college to help on that, so that is good. You remember that we ended up getting $400,000 of ongoing resources to create a more robust technical education effort modeled along the technical colleges in the state. And with that, it's a great sort of segue into introducing Stacy McKiff, who has agreed to serve as the interim vice president for technical education. She has stepped up in a really good way in helping also draw on and work with the campus in getting almost $1 million worth of one-time money on short-term training. So, Stacy, it's good to see you virtually. Give us a little update on the Learn and Work, and then some of the things that you're working on.
Hey, sounds great. Thanks, everyone. Well, we have some great news about our Learn and Work programs. And before I start into the numbers on that, I just have to give a very special thanks out to the people who have worked very, very hard on this initiative. We have had to build as we go, and so program leads, Landon in the advisement office, the admissions people in the finance area, the bookstore, marketing, everybody's been really great, especially these program leads who pulled the proposals together and are now executing. And there have been some challenges, but it's been fun and exciting to see the results. So out of the 10 programs, right now, 6 are at capacity or very near capacity, and some of the programs don't even start until October. So that's very exciting. And what we're seeing is that we've asked people on the application form how COVID has affected them. And, lots of people, probably a third of people have said that they've been laid off or they've had reduced hours, they've lost jobs. Some people have closed businesses. And we're seeing that a lot of these students who are coming in for the short-term training are non-traditional students. Some of these target markets that Melanie was talking about earlier, so it's kind of exciting to see that too. We've had over 300 applicants for the programs, and just a lot of great response. And thanks to all of you for helping us get the word out. We also see from the data that most people heard about the programs through social media, and that was thanks to you sharing and getting the word out for us. So a couple of other things that are happening right now, we are working with some third-party companies on getting some training that's already to be delivered, and then working with our academic departments on some of those. And through Melanie's leadership, we've been able to articulate some courses with Bottega Software Engineering Group with our software engineering classes here at Snow, and thanks to those faculty as well who've been willing to be open-minded and work together. And so there will be 15 credits of software engineering online, completely online credits available that can then lead, what we hope is lead into the software engineering program for a bachelor's degree. We're also working with Podium, which is a company out of Texas, but they were funded by VC here in Utah, so they've got some ties to Utah. They're going to be delivering a data analytics program, 6 credits, and that's part of the short-term training program right now, but amazing opportunity. And then hopefully people can build on those skills and then upgrade to the data science program that Professor Snyder and others are trying to put together too. We're also going to be in talks with Amazon Web Services to become a designated campus for them, and we'll be working on that this week. So all of that comes together. All of these pieces are coming together as we try to make a strategic plan for technical education at Snow College and how the academic departments can be involved and serving community, working with economic development. So it's kind of an exciting time, President.
Yeah, it is exciting. And as we kind of look at the environment and the ecosystem around the country, kind of partnerships are going to be really important. Higher education generally, but more specifically to college. Because one of the goals and principles that we're working here at Snow College is finding ways in which we can create opportunities for people to work remotely, right? So especially in rural development values and goals, we want to find ways people who want to stay here, students who want to stay and work in our counties can do that. And remote working is one of these skills, cloud-based computing, data analytics, programming. A lot of these, you don't have to move to the Wasatch Front to get really good jobs. And thank you so much for your leadership, Stacy. Thank you, faculty, and our staff. Our faculty have been working hard to articulate a lot of these programs and to oversee them. And says a lot about our flexibility and our kind of innovative spirit here. Well, listen, if there are questions, please, those listening, please know. But let's move now to our COVID update. And if I could bring Bob Nielsen, really is our co-chair of our we're calling our COVID course program closure committee. We got a COVID committee going from the state all the way down. But we want to update you very about where we are in terms of our number of cases. We want to use today, we're calling a gradient threshold function, which we'll share them daily, updated, just like, and you could look at where the country is relative to active cases and the in our, we want to have both Richfield and Ephraim, and we'll share a graph with you in a minute. But I wanted to introduce Rob in this case. And Rob, do you want to talk a little bit about the number of cases that we have, and then about the COVID teams? When we're ready, we can bring up this the COVID metric that we're working on.
Okay, thanks a lot. And just before I start, a quick shout out to Ian Spackman and Nathan Beck over in housing. They've done a great job in working with everybody to get those houses filled. So good work to the housing group. With the COVID team, It's been a very interesting week. We were projected to have 8 cases when we started school from the Levitt group who's working with us. Currently, we have 3 cases. Well, we have on Ephraim's campus, we have the 3 active cases. So a couple of students here, a couple of faculty members in Richfield. So we're doing really well, and it's been a great first week. The students and everybody's been very, very good at wearing masks in the classes and other places that they deem necessary. So really happy where we are after 1 week, and we'll just continue monitoring that with this new metrics that we do have. I think it's going to be very helpful for us and for the community.
So those 3 students are students who are not here on campus now. They are back home. Is that correct?
Right. We have a couple of students that have gone home that are no longer active cases. We have a couple of students that are still in the area but not in the campus housing. And we're working with the care team, which monitors them for food and for their academic success and really their mental health as well if they're quarantined. So nothing on campus. A couple of cases with people that have decided to stay in off-campus housing or out of town. We have 1 student at home in Fairview, so nobody really on campus that has COVID right now.
The questions a lot from being asked students and faculty, parents, and others is, what is the number, right, that when you reach that you will consider going to remote learning? That's not an easy answer, just because there's so many variables and to consider. But if I could bring up working on FAICS, Becky Hermanson and Marcy Larson and others in pulling this kind of set of data that can be found. Where can it be found, Marcy? It's on the COVID Ready page, and that will be updated daily. You can just drop down, see that we have a total you can see where we are top right in terms of Ephraim and Richfield, and we have what's really confirmed cases, and then we have day average. It has been really interesting to work with the county health department in their with their work, and we have been working with them as well as to what is there threshold. So rather than a specific threshold, though, and using kind of other campuses around the country and other models, we have come to this kind of gradient map here in which we'll watch very closely. So what you'll see here is that number of that line will give you a sense of where we are. Now, one thing that we're considering is, which is adopting, one of the states has taken this position when it comes to education, is that if a college has 100 or more cases, or if the number of cases 5% of the campus population, then they will go learning for 2 weeks and we'll reassess the situation. So if we go back to that, that gradient, what we're watching is anything that edges up close to 100 will be very alert at that number. Anything that gets above 5% then risks an outbreak. But according to the county health officials and the state, is that we can manage safely about 100 students on active cases on Ephraim's campus and about 35 cases on Richfield. So that number kind of makes sense that even 3 or 4, 5, 6, and eventually we'll have more than that. What we need to really watch is when we edge up close to 100 cases over the course of 2 weeks. So this is what you're seeing. What you're looking at here is really the Richfield data, and something that we're going to be updating from each day. But I've got to say that the students are doing pretty well. That their reports that we only have a student reported wearing a mask in class. I'm very complimentary every time I see a student wearing a mask to compliment them and thank them for wearing a mask. I think that kind of positive reinforcement long ways in helping these students be compliant on that front. They want to stay here face to face as much as anyone, and so we continue to ask them and you to continue to do those things that we know that work. And what we know works is masking actually works. The national average of infection rates is about 2.2 per infection. What that means is that for every person that is tested positive, they infect nationally about 2 other people. In Utah, that's much lower. The average infection rate is 0.99, so just under 1, which is good, right? So that is basically saying that for every person that is actively positive for COVID, they infect on average about 1 person as well. We think that given Snow College, that infection rate is even smaller, but we're sort of using some projective and some data analytics using the infection rates. And if we're able to maintain the plan that we have, we should be able to get through the semester under the thresholds that we're outlining. I feel very good about that, but that really is contingent on people continuing to be vigilant about mask wearing, about hand sanitizing, about staying apart. So with that, Rob, is there anything else that we want to share with the campus? And then, of course, let's take any questions that the group might have.
I think one important thing that you talked about that we need to emphasize on the chart, we'll have the 7-day rolling average. And that's crucial for people to see that we'll show each time there's a case, but that rolling average is what we're looking at. And the state is looking at the same thing for the state. And so we'll be at 5 right now, but that's going to drop down because a couple of cases will drop off in a day or 2. So in a day or 2, our rolling average could be down to 1 or 2. So we could be making really good progress with everybody's work and success and the things that they're doing to make sure that we're all helping each other be safe. And we talked about the dorms today. We've had some kids in the dorms without masks, but we know that most of the time you are wearing masks in the dorms, and we appreciate that. If you're just walking from here to there and going to pass some people and you don't have a mask, we don't want to arrest you. So we just want everybody to be vigilant, but understand that you're doing a good job, and we'll continue to help you do that if we can.
We do have a question, and this is, it says, if a Snow student's roommate's girlfriend is tested positive for COVID, and the roommate is waiting to get a test, what are the options for the student that has no place to stay because his roommates share in an off-campus housing? The student has been gone for the weekend and found out Sunday night that it was not safe to go back to his off-campus housing, so he was looking at camping out. So do they have any other options? How would you respond to that?
Anybody that would like to have options, if you will contact the care team, which is Karen Johnson or Gary McKenzie, we do have rooms over in Nuttall Hall that we've reserved for people to quarantine or self-isolate. So if you would like to do something like that, if you'll contact the care team, then we can put you over there for a couple of days. We have you'll have food, we'll deliver food, and take care of your whatever you need as far as classes go, so you'll have access to your classes. So we can take care of you. Please don't camp out unless you like to, but we can take care of you. So you can contact us. as a COVID care team, then we'll work with you to find you a place that you can stay for a couple of days. If you do have it and you don't want to go home and you don't want to stay with your roommates, we'd encourage you to come to Nuttall Hall. Let us know so that we could put you up there, so we could isolate you or quarantine you for the time you need to. So both scenarios, we'd be happy to work with you at this time and find a solution for you.
Thank you. We did have a question whether we have sports this fall. Do you want to update us where we are on athletics?
So sports have all been postponed and moved to spring. So during the fall semester, we will all of the teams will be here. They'll be practicing various times, and they have different levels of competition. Each team can have 3 or 4 scrimmages. So you'll be seeing some outside teams coming for scrimmages with limited numbers of people about at those things. So we'll be actively practicing and preparing for spring. Then in the spring, basketball and volleyball games will start on January 20th. And football will start practicing along with soccer and softball on March 1st. And games will start at the end of March and go through April and May, with the championships in either May or June for football and soccer and softball. So volleyball and basketball, a neat thing for Richfield is Richfield will be hosting the Scenic West Conference Championships the end of March, first part of April. So we'll be hosting both the volleyball and the basketball championships in Richfield at the Sevier Valley Center. So that's nice for us to be able to showcase Richfield to all of the teams in the conference. And it was the other team's idea to do this. So if we can make it a nice event, we think we can bring those championships to Richfield each year, which would really be fun for the community, for the campus, and for the teams that play in such a neat arena. So some good things are coming out of COVID. Hopefully we can have the championships hosted each year at our Richfield campus. The NJCAA is working closely with the NCAA. The NCAA has changed some things, if you want to know. They're really not going to count. The NCAA is not going to count this year as a year of eligibility. So that's having a trickle-down effect in that everybody that plays this year at the NCAA level will have an extra year of eligibility. So that's going to put a bottleneck on our athletes of where they can transfer to, and also where the incoming seniors in high school, where they'll go to. Their options are going to be limited because the number of options, if everybody stays and plays another year, there's just not going to be room for people. So a lot of things happen in the sports world. As you see on TV with people boycotting teams, there's a lot of things going on in athletics, but right now everything's good on our campus, and we're looking forward to spring for all of our seasons.
We have only about 5 more minutes before we need to probably cut off here. But there was our schedule out. We have not made a decision just yet whether we're going to be going to remote after Thanksgiving, we'll be back face to face, but we will make a decision by November 1st. We're just sort of watching and seeing how things kind of stand at that time. But there are a lot of interesting, positive moving that are moving ahead. We had Congressman Chris Stewart on campus last week, who seemed very, very hopeful that the country will have a vaccine by late fall, which doesn't help us right now, but will make a big difference come spring. We're also paying attention to Abbott Lab, other researchers about a saliva test, which is a quick turnaround test that could be available to us soon. I know that University of Utah was using theirs, using the saliva test, and had about a 90% accuracy rate. So with those kind of factors that are kind of in motion, those are all sort of as well. I don't want to minimize, though, the seriousness of this or the dangers, because we really are in a very serious pandemic. And until those things materialize, we ask you to continue to wear your masks, continue to encourage our students to be citizens. As we kind of wind down here, I'd like to also ask that you be very aware of pedestrian safety. This time of year, we had in the years past a couple of accidents where we've had students hit by cars. So make sure that if you are driving, that you're extra vigilant and aware of our students crossing the road. And if you're a student, please take out your headphones, look both ways, and be aware that especially in the morning, that east sun can also be very blinding. It makes it very difficult for vehicles to see. So, so with that, we are looking forward to having our next town hall on September 15th, and we'll get them more regular. We'll have them sort of more, but another week is what we're planning on, and we're looking for interesting topics that we can cover that might be interesting to the campus. That we're always open for guests that we can bring on and engage. So thank you so much. Thank you for finding so much positive in a time where our world is kind of rife with conflict and dissension. It's really nice to be part of a learning community in a village here that we look out for each other and we look out for our students. And again, it's an honor to work with you. And until the 15th, let us know if there are any other topics to cover. And thanks so much for your dedication and support for our students. Thank you.